This is Leader Time by FedNet, your podcast source for remarks by Senate leaders on the floor. In this episode, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer discussed plans as of December 11th to process the fiscal year 2025 defense authorization, negotiations on extending funding into 2025, and the Social Security Fairness Act. The following material is protected by copyright.
Madam President, yesterday the House of Representatives passed the National Defense Authorization Act, bringing this bill here to the Senate. I just filed cloture on the NDAA, setting up the first procedural vote for early next week. This year's NDAA has some very good things we Democrats wanted in it. It has some bad things we wouldn't have put in there, and some things that were left out. But we're going to keep working. We're going to keep working at it. Both sides are working well together, and I hope we can finish the job soon. So thank you to Chairman Reed, to Ranking Member Wicker, and to my colleagues on both sides for finalizing the text of NDAA. As for next week's going to be very busy here on the Senate floor, where we have a number of legislative priorities to complete before the end of the year. We must, for one, continue working on confirming more of President Biden's nominees. Voting on well-qualified nominees is our job, it's our responsibility, and we're going to continue working on nominees so long as this session of Congress continues. Second, as I've mentioned, we'll finish passing the NDAA. Members should be prepared to take the first procedural vote early next week. We must also pass an extension of government funding to avoid a shutdown right before Christmas. The only way we prevent a shutdown is through bipartisan cooperation without any last-minute poison pills that create controversy. We can't have that. It has never worked in the past, and adding poison pills at the 11th hour would only make the risk of a Christmas shutdown greater. Thankfully, I'm pleased that so far talks have remained productive. Negotiators continue working round the clock to reach an agreement. They're meeting early in the morning, they're meeting late at night, and they will work through the weekend if necessary. I want to thank Chair Murray, Ranking Member Collins, appropriators in the House, and House leadership for their cooperation on getting a CR done. I also hope we can reach an agreement to pass a strong disaster package before the end of the year as part of the CR. Democrats continue to work on the disaster package. We know one thing. Just as both parties represent communities affected by disasters, both parties must take passing disaster aid seriously. We urge our Republican colleagues to keep working with us and get us as generous a package as possible because there's so much damage out there and so many communities need help. Right now, the federal government faces its looming disaster. The vast majority of funds intended for emergency disaster relief have nearly dried up. We have very few resources left for helping small businesses, helping farmers, helping people rebuild their homes, helping communities fix their main streets and repair their highways. This is a problem for states across the country, in every part of the country, whether they be red or blue, whether they be represented by Democrats or Republicans. And unfortunately, but necessarily, the only fix is congressional action. Democrats are working with our colleagues on the other side on a reasonable proposal to help cities and towns and rural areas rebuild. We hope to reach an agreement soon. And finally, Madam President, today I filed cloture on the Social Security Fairness Act, a strongly bipartisan bill already approved by the Republican House that would ensure Americans are not erroneously denied their well-earned Social Security benefits simply because they chose at some point to work in their careers in public service. I'm talking at public servants like firefighters, teachers, postal workers, policemen, and so many other jobs like that. The Senate's going to vote on the Social Security Fairness Act before the end of the year. This is a chance for senators to do the right thing for our teachers and nurses and postal workers and law enforcement officers and firefighters, and they'll certainly be watching what we do with their retirement benefits. I'm proud to co-sponsor this bill with my good friend Senator Brown. Democrats are ready to act on this much-needed fix for millions of retirees. The bill already passed the House with a huge bipartisan majority. The Senate should follow suit. Americans deserve to see which side the senators are on when it comes to securing their well-earned retirement benefits. For too many retirees, millions and millions, have been robbed of their hard-earned benefits because of WEP and GPO. Passing the Social Security Fairness Act is our best shot at fixing this problem and helping out working families. The Senate will get the chance to pass this important bill with a vote here on the floor next week. I yield the floor. And note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Thanks for listening to this FedNet podcast, and be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. This program is copyrighted by Federal Network, incorporated and provided for informational and educational purposes, only with all rights reserved. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without explicit permission from FedNet is prohibited. Visit us online at www.fednet.net and watch FedNet on Amazon Fire TV, Haystack News, and Local Now for coverage of the United States Congress like no one else.